Hello, Shalom Aleichem. Tonight we have a reading from Chaye Sarah from the Lubavitcher Rebbe's Chumash. Let's take a look. Here, this is the Chumash of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the 5 books of the Torah, with an interpolated translation and commentary based on the works of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This was given to me by my good friend Shoshana. This is LeZecher Nishmas, in loving memory of her father, her dear father, Harry Berger, Tzvi ben Shraga Dov HaCohen, Zechrona L'Bracha. Chaye Kislev Tavshin Ayin Gimel, 1209. Okay, so this is by Shoshana, and she sent this to me. LeZecher Nishmas, her father. So this is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is Zatzal. This is his Chumash, and he's got very nice introductions to all of the parakim, of the Chumash. Let's take a look at what it says here. Chaye Sarah, the burial of Sarah, of the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah. The name of the 5th section of the book of Genesis is taken from its first words, the life of Sarah, Chaye Sarah in Hebrew, and begins with Sarah's death and burial. We then follow Abraham's servant, Avram's servant Eliezer, as he betroths Abraham's grandniece Rebekah to Abraham's son Isaac. This account is followed by that of Isaac and Rebekah's marriage and the closing phases of Abraham's life, his remarriage to Hagar, his death, and his son Ishmael's departure from his family and its divine mission. Inasmuch as Chaye Sarah means the life of Sarah, it follows that it is Sarah who is the protagonist, the heroine of this parasha. At first glance, this seems baffling, since Sarah's life came to an end in the previous parsha, and Parshat Chaye Sarah seems to emphasize the finality of her death. Abraham must arrange for her burial. He must find a wife for his son to succeed Sarah as the matriarch of his household, and he marries Hagar to have a wife in Sarah's stead. So in other words, this is after the life of Sarah. So why does it say that this is the life of Sarah? So finally, the parsha closes by recording the genealogy of Ishmael, whom Sarah had expelled from her home. So here's the answer. But in truth, the episodes of this parasha demonstrate how Sarah's life did not end with her death. Rather, the influence of the values and ideals that she worked toward throughout her lifetime continued after her death. Abraham was the trailblazer in disseminating the awareness of God, in the world, as we have seen. Mm-hmm. But in order to spread the message of monotheism and morality to an idolatrous, immoral world, he had to focus on humanity's great potential, deliberately turning a blind eye to its imperfections. Abraham personified the attribute of chesed, giving endlessly and indiscriminately, accepting everyone with unqualified love, seeing them as the best they can be, regardless of who they are now. Sarah helped Abraham spread his message among the world's women with the same undiscriminating eye he used towards the world's men. When Isaac was born, however, and when they were entrusted with raising a child who would have the strength to carry on their divine mission, She realized that this universalism would have to be tempered by a discerning particularism. She realized that this universalism would have to be tempered by a discerning particularism. Abraham could afford to be unconditionally accepting as long as it was just he and his wife interacting with their audience. But once their mission of disseminating divine consciousness was to be passed on to a family and eventually to a whole people, steps had to be taken to ensure that this message be passed on with uncompromising purity, direction, and force. Thus, Sarah, the mother entrusted with nurturing Abraham's successor, undertook to insulate the family from deleterious influences. As soon as Ishmael became just such an influence, and Hagar proved unwilling or unable to check his untoward behavior, Sarah insisted that they both be sent away. Abraham was troubled by this, but God settled the matter, instructing Abraham to follow Sarah's advice. Abraham's universalism is appropriate in its place, but out of place it becomes counterproductive. A family or a people, like any living organism, must have well-defined borders. If not, the health and integrity of the entire organism are compromised. Sarah's particularism was thus the next stage in the process of the creation of the Jewish people. Abraham initiated the process by reviving the world's awareness of God. Sarah ensured the continuation of this process by defining the parameters of the relationship between Abraham's heirs and the world they were charged to mentor. The lesson of Parshat Chaye Sarah, then, is that universalism must operate hand in hand with particularism. We are all Abrahams, charged with the mission of spreading divine consciousness to the whole world. As such, we must always strive to view humanity in the best possible light, and each individual as a precious child of God who deserves our unconditional love and the best we can give, both materially and spiritually. But concomitantly, we must all be Sarahs, cherishing the integrity of the bearers of the divine message and acutely aware of the fact that God has entrusted his mission to us. Thus we bear the message, and that the world is our inheritance. So this is the introduction to Chaye Sarah. Sarah's lifetime, Vayihiyu Chaye Sarah Meya Shana v'Esrim Shana v'Sheva Shanim Shnei Chaye Sarah Vatamas Sarah v'Kiryas Arba hi Hebron v'Eretz Kinaan v'Yavo Avraham l'spod l'Sarah v'liv kosa. Sarah's lifetime was 127 years. The years of Sarah's life were all equally good. She enjoyed the advantages of old age in her youth, and the advantages of youth in her old age. Furthermore, she retained the youthful beauty that she had miraculously regained before conceiving Isaac until her final days, and she died completely righteous, untainted by sin. Word reached Sarah about the binding of Isaac. The shock of Abraham's attempted sacrifice of her son, coupled with the relief of hearing that he was spared, was too much for her to bear, and she died. Thus Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, the city of the four, which is Hebron. in Canaan. Abraham heard of his wife's death and came from Beersheba to eulogize Sarah and to weep for her. The Hittite inhabitants of Hebron all left work and also came to pay their last respects to Sarah. Abraham rose from the presence of his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites in these words: "Your nation presently rules over this part of Canaan. I, being of a different nationality, am a foreigner and only a sojourner among you. I therefore ask you as a private resident to allow me to purchase a piece of property that I can make into a family burial ground within the territory you control, so that I can bury my dead wife from my presence." The Hittites replied to Abraham, saying to him, "Listen to us, my lord. You are a prince of God in our midst. Honor us, therefore, and bury your dead in the choicest of our burial sites. No one among us will deny you his burial sites to bury your dead." So in other words, they wanted to give him one of their own burial sites, but Abraham wanted a special site, which we're going to find out about it right now. Abraham rose and he bowed down to the people of that region, the Hittites. He spoke to them, saying, "I appreciate your offer, but I want to purchase my own property and designate it myself as a family burial ground. If it is really your will that I bury my dead from my presence, listen to me and entreat Ephron, son of Tzochar, on my behalf. He was the owner of the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, the cave of Machpelah. Let him grant me the cave of Machpelah, doubling, which you all originally owned jointly, but which now belongs to him alone, and is located at the edge of his fields. Let him sell it to me for its full price in your presence, so that I can make it into a family burial ground. In other words, he's not asking for a bargain, he's asking for its full price. Let's see, the years of Sarah's life were all equally good. Although Sarah constantly achieved ever higher degrees of goodness, and it would therefore seem that any period of her life was in this respect superior to the period preceding it, and inferior to the period following it, all her years because she was always improving. So therefore it was better than what was before, we would think. All her years can nonetheless be regarded as being equally good. Her every achievement built upon and perfected her previous achievements, and complementarily prepared her for the greater heights she would eventually reach. In this way, Sarah succeeded in breaking through the boundaries of time and creating a cohesive oneness out of the different periods of her life. This teaches us that what we do today affects not only the present, but the past and the future as well. Let's take a look at note number 7. This is from the Likutei Sichot. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba. Hebron was also called Kiryat Arba because of the 4 giants who lived there. The 3 brothers, Achiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, and their father. They were giants. So they could be 4 giants. The name also refers prophetically to the fact that it would be the resting place of 4 eminent couples: Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah, and Adam and Eve, who were already buried there. The cave of Machpelah. So Abraham spoke to them, saying, "I appreciate your offer, but I want to purchase my own property and designate it myself as a family burial ground." If it is really your will that I bury my dead from my presence, listen to me and entreat Ephron, son of Tzochar, on my behalf. Let him grant me the cave of Machpelah, doubling, which you all originally owned jointly, but which now belongs to him alone, and it is located at the edge of the field. Let him sell it to me for its full price in your presence, so that I can make it into a family burial ground. Ephron was then seated among the Hittites who had gathered to pay their respects to Sarah. Ephron at the time was merely an ordinary citizen, but the Hittites promptly promoted him to a position of honor, so that Abraham would not have to negotiate with a person of inferior social status. Ephron the Hittite replied to Abraham in the presence of the Hittites, so that all who came to the city gate where they had gathered could hear. No, my lord, I will not accept payment for it. I would be honored to give it to you. Furthermore, listen to me. You only ask for the cave, but as far as I am concerned, I have already given you the entire field as well. And as for the cave within, I have already given it to you. So in other words, he gave the cave also. And I have given it to you in full view of my compatriots. Bury your dead. Once Ephron offered to give Abraham the entire field, Abraham no longer needed to bring up the issue of a family burial ground. Once he would own the whole field, he would obviously be able to do whatever he pleased with any part of it. Here's verse 12, Pasuk 12. Abraham bowed down before the people of that place. He spoke to Ephron, here's 13. He spoke to Ephron so that all the local people could hear in these words: if only you would listen to me. I do not want to accept the field for free. I am giving you the money for the field. It's here in my hand. Take it from me, so that I may bury my dead there. In other words, Abraham is insisting on paying for it. Number 14. Ephron replied to Abraham, saying to him, my lord, listen to me. What's 400 silver shekels worth of land between friends like you and me? Forget about the money and bury your dead. Although 400 silver shekels was an exorbitant price to pay for the field, Ephron meant to flaunt his generosity by feigning to refuse payment. Nevertheless, Abraham understood that what Ephron really meant. Abraham weighed out for Ephron the amount of silver that he had mentioned in the presence of the Hittites, 400 full-sized shekels, which are universally negotiable currency. Ephron's field of Machpelah, which faced the plains of Mamre, the field, the cave within it, and every tree within its perimeter, was thus confirmed as Abraham's purchase publicly in view of the Hittites and of all who had come to the gate of his city. It was everything, all the trees and the field and the cave within it, everything was confirmed as the purchase of Abraham, in full view of the Hittites and of all who had come to the gate of the city, thereby making the purchase incontrovertible. When Abraham purchased them, the status of the field and the cave rose from that of a commoner's property to that of a noble's. In other words, Abraham was of a noble person, as the shliach, of Hashem, the one that Hashem sent. Hashem, the Nasi Elokim, he's like the Prince of Hashem. Once Abraham purchased the field and the cave thereby completely disassociated Ephron's name from them and elevating their status to that of royal property, he buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing the plains of Mamre, which is Hebron in Canaan, in order to show proper respect to Sarah. Abraham wanted to bury her in the field of a noble rather than in that of a commoner. The field and its cave were thus confirmed as Abraham's property by the fact that he designated the cave in accordance with his intention in buying it as a burial ground, purchased outright and unequivocally from the Hittites through Ephron. 3 years later, in 2088, Abraham decided it was time for Isaac to marry Rebekah. By this time, Abraham was 140 years old. Even though he was old, the maturity tends to bring benign nonchalance, Abraham continued to deeply internalize his experience. Here we can learn this, we can read this later. A wife for Isaac from Abraham's family. Then we learn about the generosity of Rebekah, the generosity of Rivka, because Avraham wanted for the wife of Isaac, somebody with generosity, great generosity, to continue, to show that it's a mitzvah to give, to be generous to people. Rebekah's generosity, she said, "Drink, sir," and quickly lowered her pitcher from her shoulder onto her hand and gave him to drink. Oh, Eliezer, Abraham's trusted servant, was entrusted with going to find a wife for Yitzchak, for Isaac. So Eliezer's prayer, he said, God of my master Abraham, arrange events for me this day such that you grant a favor to my master Abraham. Here I stand by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townsmen are coming out to draw water. So he had a test. This is the test. Let it be that the maiden to whom I say, please tilt your pitcher so that I may drink, and who replies, drink, and I will also give water to your men. In other words, not only will she give to Eliezer to drink, she will give water to the men, and the camels too, the camels. So this maiden that will be that way, she will be the one whom you have designated for your servant Isaac. This was his prayer to Hashem. She will be a fitting match because her demonstration of considerateness and generosity will prove that she is worthy of becoming a part of Abraham's household. Let her be from his family and the suitable companion for Isaac. Thus I will know through her that you have acted kindly with my master. He had not yet finished speaking to God when 3-year-old Rebekah came out. She had been born to Bethuel, youngest son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. Her pitcher was on her shoulder. The maiden was of very beautiful appearance, yet she was still a virgin, whom no man had known carnally in any way. So in other words, people became very mature at very, very young ages still at that time. Here's Rebecca's generosity. She was taught very well. She said, "Drink, sir," and quickly lowered her pitcher from her shoulder onto her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him to drink, she said, "Let me draw water for your men, and camels too, until they have drunk their fill." She quickly emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran to the well again to draw water, and she drew water for all his men and camels. Seeing that Rebekah had performed precisely those acts that he had requested from God that she perform, as a sign that she was a suitable wife for Isaac, the man wondered about her if she would also prove to be from Abraham's family. He thought silently to himself, wanting to know whether or not God has made his journey successful. So we have the Hebrew and the English. One of the presents that Eliezer brought to Rebecca was a gold nose ring. Eliezer's gift to Rebecca, the bride in the first marriage, explicitly mentioned in the Torah. The marriage of Adam and Eve is only hinted to in the Torah. Silikutei Sichot. Eliezer's gift to Rebecca, the bride in the first marriage explicitly mentioned in the Torah, allude to the two pillars upon which the Jewish home and marriage must be founded: fulfillment of the commandments and study of the Torah. The half-shekel donation was a form of charity, which is the quintessential commandment. So in other words, the half-shekel was like some tzedakah, like charity, which is the quintessential commandment of giving charity. The half-shekel nose ring thus alludes to all the commandments. So that's alluding to the mitzvos. The two bracelets allude to the two tablets on which God engraved the Ten Commandments, which are the foundations of the entire Torah. The Ten Commandments is the only section of the Torah that was engraved upon tablets. The rest of the Torah was written with ink on parchment. Letters written on parchment remain discrete from the parchment and can be scraped off or erased. But when they are engraved on a tablet, they become an integral part of the tablet and cannot be separated from it without destroying a portion of the tablet itself. By giving a gift that alludes to the Ten Commandments, Eliezer was indicating that a Jewish home must be based on a commitment to the Torah, as intrinsic as letters engraved in stone. So here is part of Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah, the Parsha of Chaye Sarah. And this is from the Chumash, based on the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the 5 books of the Torah, with an interpolated translation and commentary based on the works of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this is LeZecher Nishmas Reb Tzvi ben Reb Shraga Dov HaCohen, and this is donated. Was given by Shoshana My good friend Shoshana in LeZecher Nishmas, her father. That's Reb Tzvi ben Shraga Dov HaCohen, Zechron L'Rocha. Okay, Yeshikayach and Hatzlacha in the learning. This is a very good sefer to get and to learn. Kol Tov, thank you.